Yeah, Weege Show, you would think I'd be at Chicagoland Speedway. We'll get there in a moment when we break the time-space continuum, Marty McFly, 88 mile an hour style. But Thursday night, we're actually at the AMA Hall of Fame. It is the best Hall of Fame class I could ever put together. Rita Coombs, who is like my second mom, been working for Racer X since the year 2000. I've got some unbelievable stories of working and traveling to the races and hanging out with Rita Coombs that I cannot tell on this GoPro. You wouldn't think so. You'd be like, could it really get that fun and that crazy? Yes, it has. I've had a lot of fun at the races with Rita. And then you see this 199 bike. Travis Pastrana went into the AMA Hall of Fame as well. A hilarious speech laced with one injury story after another. And then hilariously, Travis said, hey, I know that Roger DeCoster's really only here for this guy, Ryan Dungey, but hey, Roger, good to see you again. Ryan Dungey goes into the AMA Hall of Fame as well. Of course, my good buddy, Grant Langston, is in. They picked bikes to represent their titles. That's Travis's 2000 125 national title bike. That's Dungey's 2015 KTM Supercross bike, which he said really represented the first 3 years, 12, 13, 14 were a struggle as they try to develop a KTM 450. That was really the zenith of it all. This is Langston's 2003 championship bike. And of course, credit to Pastrana for always saying the right thing. He's like, I don't know how Langston won that title in 03 because there were 250Fs by then. Travis said that's probably the last time a 125 two-stroke could have been the best bike in the class because the YZ250F came out the next year. Gosh, Travis has amazing insights. And finally, my man Barry Hawk, this is GNCC championship bike from 2003. Funny story. I actually got started as a television announcer because I was the GNCC track announcer. That started about midway through 2002. And then the GNCC TV shows for 03, Seals Co., the old Moto World producers, they put Supercross on TV for years. They kept asking me for notes on the GNCC guys because they'd taken over the GNCC television package. And then eventually, and I believe this was my buddy We Went Fast, Brett Smith, who sent me this email, and he said, you know, instead of you just sending us notes to the announcers, do you want to just be the announcer? So, funny story, the year that Hawk won the title on this bike, the television show for GNCC was Art Ekman and myself posing as the expert analyst because I was the only person they knew that knew anything about GNCC. So for me, I mean, you know my history with GL, of course, working with him on TV for 8 years. Great history with all these guys. There we go. Reunited, and it feels so good. GL, you're in the AMA Hall of Fame.
That's right.
And if you don't think this means something, tell me how the first 2 minutes of your speech went there, bud.
Well, for the first time, I didn't talk. So
there was no talking.
No.
There was no talking.
No, there was just some waterfalls.
It was.
But I thought I'd at least get partly into my speech before kind of, you know, choking up a little bit. But no, I walked up there and sobbed like a little girl.
You did. I mean, I think that really sums it up how much this means. As you said, this wasn't even a thing you knew about when you were a kid.
No, it wasn't. And then when I moved to America, I knew about it. And then, you know, being around a lot of, you know, legends, including Brock Glover and many others for so many years. And he also explained to me like how important it really is. And I think it's one of those things it took for me to come here, physically just come as a guest and walk around in 2010. And I remember seeing all the names on the wall and just thought, man, it would be really, really cool if my name was somewhere next to those guys. So since 2010, I would be lying if I didn't say this was a dream.
Oh, okay. And one great irony is that by nothing more than luck, you and Pastrana go in the same year.
Yeah.
And you had these unbelievable duels, which you both talked about in your speeches.
Yeah. Well, as my dad said, Travis should be my PR manager because he talked quite nicely of me tonight. But it's just funny because, you know, people forget Travis and I raced each other. He was 12, I was 13 in South Africa. And then we raced again in World Minis the next year. And then we raced Donations. And then we raced all of 01.
Yeah, but could you explain to me why Donations, Saturday qualifying race at Donations in 2000, he's next to you and then you just hang a right.
Yes.
And just go right into him.
Yeah, it's weird.
Straight, like you did magnets?
That bike, it always pulled to the right.
Oh,
you know,
okay. You guys hit each other over and over.
Well, we were talking about it. Travis seemed to enjoy it. I'll be honest, I don't like someone hitting me. Like, it irritates me.
Okay.
But it was just funny because we were talking about it, and I told him even earlier, I said, man, I've watched that numerous times, and I'm like, I was a bit of a dick for a Saturday qualifier.
Yes.
So, but he's like, yeah, but that was fun. And I'm like, yeah, I guess he raced like like he would hit you, but you would take it personally at first, and then, you know, Travis, that was awesome, let's do it again. And you're like,
yeah.
What do you mean that was awesome? You rode into me. You're like, but Travis was always fun to race, and you always knew you came off the track and you would laugh and joke and high five, and he said earlier how much he loves riding his bike, and you could tell he I think lived for those kind of battles. But I think a lot of it too was he was the national champ, I was the world champ, and everyone was doing the who's better, who's going to win. So I think I was trying a little too hard to prove a point.
Oh, okay.
So, but it still was probably one of the best qualification races I've ever had.
Going for it.
Fun, yeah.
All right, well, congratulations on
Thanks,
getting
Weege.
in. Yes,
Appreciate
a dream he didn't even knew he had.
Yes.
And full circle with Pastrana. Maybe they'll run into each other again.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, they probably will.
Always in one.
Yeah, exactly. And one other thing that has nothing to do with this year's class, I was actually an ATV guy growing up. I'm just the right age for that. And I've never actually, this is my hero growing up, Gary Denton. I've never actually gotten to see one of his ATVs in person until now. It was just magazine and newspaper photos. I'm gonna touch it. I'm gonna touch Gary Denton's. I would say this is an 86 because the 87s had a blue front and a blue motor. This is Gary Denton's 1986 Suzuki Quad Racer LT250R. I just want to touch it. Hi, Travis.
Hey,
Hey.
super positive.
You are super positive. The last best bike in the there was a two-stroke.
there you go. I knew
That
I
was a
came
really
back for a
good
reason,
point.
yeah.
That's a really good point. The last best time at 125 was the bike to ride in the class right there. Anyway, congrats to AMA for putting in a great class that I have a connection with a lot of them. So let's now break the time-space continuum and let's go to Friday in Chicago. Boom, 88 miles an hour. We have broken the time-space continuum. We are now at Chicagoland Speedway. I know everybody was theorizing that this track would be more motocross than last week. That's more motocross than an actual motocross track. I mean, this is literally the first time dirt bikes have ever hit this grass. We don't have that even in the pro motocross circuit, where you have a completely untouched by motorcycles until they get here for the practice the day before the event. And I'd heard the theory when they're coming to Chicagoland Speedway, one of the appealing things about this is they don't have a NASCAR race here anymore. And they didn't care. They're like, go ahead, do whatever you want. We don't have to preserve the place for anything else. So this infield could be torn up. They said, have at it. When I first saw the track map, it didn't look to me like they were doing too much of that. But dude, look, this is the start. I mean, this is like Unadilla 1976 start on grass. And because we've just started practice, we had 3 sessions out on the track so far. This grass is pretty much untouched. Now there's a little bit of Supercross. Here's Dean Wilson gonna double. That first double is so big, I think they have to check up almost as a speed check. You can go into the face of that triple real easy, or check up too much like Roxon just did in case. Anderson went long, couldn't double off. The over-under has been moved over there. It was originally gonna be right after the start. They weren't going to hit it off the start. They're going to hit it when they hooked back onto the start straight at the end of the first lap. But they had to move it because they actually said if it were to rain, the water drains right into this area here, and they didn't want to have the over-under bridge in what would be the wettest, softest dirt. So they moved the over-under over there. There are some changes if you really studied it on the animated track map or the blueprint. It's a little bit different. But like I said, for all the theories, and we had a press conference this morning and all the riders just kept saying it looks a lot more outdoors. Most of them saying this week they're starting with motocross suspension and maybe firming it up, whereas last week they were on supercross suspension and trying to soften it. They are correct. This is definitely more motocross. This place is huge. It's fresh grass. It's tilled up deep. It's going to get rough. And the breaking point is we have the double-double, which is big, but we do not have any really steep, real technical rhythm lanes. You can see this kind of Daytona where it's just rollers. Again, no whoops. I believe the teams have said they do not want whoops on these tracks. They don't want to have to set a bike up for supercross rhythms and whoops and outdoor type stuff. What we're dealing with here, without a hardcore rhythm lane, yes, that's like the distance of a supercross triple. Yes, the double-doubles over there, but without a real steep rhythm that you got to be able to have options. Like last week, if a quad unfolded, which it did, you got to be able to do it. This week we don't have that. Everybody's going soft. motocross or super motocross, some things never change. A couple of notes, and then I'm going to turn this off and talk to the riders after this and learn more. But a couple of notes. In our press conference this morning, I asked Jet Lawrence if there's some sense of relief that a win streak is over, whether it counted or not. You know, maybe the win streak doesn't carry over from one series to another. I asked him if there's any sense of relief. He said no. Getting beat sucks. It's not a sense of relief, it's a sense of motivation. Jet did say that yes, after Ironman, he did not feel like doing anything. He wanted to exhale, he wanted to break, but the fire is so relit. As he said, it's like gasoline under him. Yes, he was fired up for the perfect season, but a loss, he's really fired up now. So you're gonna see the best of Jet Lawrence this weekend. But remember, this is a home race. Dave Sexton said that he grew up an hour from here. There's a track he used to race on a half hour from here. We had fans at the press conference. They were absolutely pumped. Big Chase Sexton fans. You really can't ask for a better scenario than that. A motivated, fired up Jet to shut Sexton down, and Sexton riding the confidence of saying, this outdoor thing, that was just a thing. It's over now. I'm back in control. That's going to be so fun to watch. All right, I'm going to keep walking around. We'll be right back. And as always, thanks to the Honda CRF450R and CRF250R for backing our show. Makes winning look easy, whether you're Chase Sexton or Jet Lawrence in the 450 class. Watch Francis' suspension. It's very interesting, the subtle difference. How this is a regular Supercross obstacle. This is the only one that's direct. It's the same over-under bridge we'd have at Supercross. Let's watch Jet's bike. I want to see how much it compresses. I mean, it bottomed. It pretty much bottomed right there. That bottom, Plessinger's did not. But I mean, Jet almost went all the way to the bottom there and there. So it'd be a long walk to get all the way back down to the other side. This would be turn one of the track. And what I wanted to show here is that they're going over the wall so they can use the banking and the wall to actually create elevation change to give it a little bit more of that motocross feel. And you can smell the dirt. You can smell it. They got mulch and everything mixed in here, kind of like outdoors would be. Then they go over the wall, they actually run around back there and then bring it back in. Here's Josh Cartwright. This is our LCQ, or unseated group. These are the guys that'll be battling to get in. There's Simonson and Shelley, Max Miller here on the Rocky Mountain ATV MC, KTM. There's our man, yeah, Phil! Morans, Jerry, Hand, Kessler. Wait a minute, jumping back in, the Pope. Oh, the Frenchman. When I start looking at this and I see car race fence and dirt laid down on concrete pavement, it actually reminds me of some of the man-made type tracks we've seen in MXGP. When we think about MXGP, the stereotype is Lommel and Valkenswaard and these legendary tracks. Yes, they have those, but they have a lot of the flyway races where they come in and literally build a track, sometimes even in a parking lot. So I asked Tom Viel about that, and he said, yes, it does. He hadn't ridden the track yet when I asked, but he says it reminds him very much of Indonesia or Brazil or a place like that where they had man-made motocross tracks. And Ken Roczen made that point also, and he said last week he did not really touch the motorcycle. Friday, Saturday, he was fine with the bike the whole time. He didn't tinker really with anything. Roczen, going way back to his MXGP days, and Vial much more recently of that, they have experience on this type of thing, building a motocross track where there wasn't one, and maybe that led partially to some of their success last week with both of them on the podium. Just wanted to get the elevation change in here. There's Bryce Shelley. All right, this is cool stuff. Come on, Phil. Now the true coming together of this track design is that it's dirt works, as we knew with building these tracks. But what I didn't even know last week until right before the race began is that there is a pro motocross influence element Randy Poulter, who helps at High Point and Loretta's and Ironman, for example, on the pro motocross circuit. Usually works hand in hand with my good buddy Jeff Russell. He helped build the track last week, he and Jeff. Jeff has to go back to his main job, which is building a GNCC track this weekend down in West Virginia. But Randy Poulter is here. They have borrowed the water truck from Redbud, I believe, who we call Sunset Bob from the Sunset Ridge track, will be driving the water truck from what I've heard. Hi, everybody. So when you watch Loretta's, for example, it forms up, I know you're gonna say, isn't it like a kid's track? Isn't it like a mini bike track? If you watch how that race forms up, Randy Poulter and Jeff Russell working together, there's so many alternate lines and these little bumps and these ruts that develop, and it changes throughout the day. Did you notice that that happened in the outdoor section last week at Charlotte, where sometimes the bridge was faster and sometimes the other line was faster as the day went on, the way bumps developed and changed? So Randy's involved with this build as well, alongside Dirtworks. So I think that's pretty cool. It is a true hybrid when you have the track builders of both series working on different sections of the track together. We got garages here like Daytona, Atlanta. Was that what you expected? Any surprises?
I mean, it's fifth gear wide open.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, the only Supercross part of it is the faces of the jump.
Are steep. Can you bottom on those? Because I'm assuming you're running softer. Is it weird to hit those?
We'll see. Let's find out. Yeah, we'll find out this practice.
Why you're going softer now? No, we're still learning.
Ryle gave it the 5 o'clock setting, so we'll see.
Oh, okay.
5 o'clock setting before noon.
These guys keep surprising us, so we gotta.
Yeah, and then I heard by tomorrow they're not really disking it and watering it until tomorrow. So whatever you learn today,
oh, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as last weekend. So.
Oh
whatever.
gosh, not even close.
I had a pretty good setting on Friday, and then.
You felt good on Friday last week? Yeah.
And Saturday, it all changed.
Throw it all away.
Yeah.
Forget your 5 o'clock setting.
Yeah.
Do you actually know on data like how fast you were going? Does anyone know?
He was hitting 60 miles per hour going over the finish line.
Last week. But you don't know this front stretch here?
I could ask.
I could only
definitely faster than that.
70.
Woo! NASCAR track, bro. But you weren't totally out of sorts. You weren't like, oh my God, we're way off.
I mean, a little bit.
You got to do some work.
Stiff. Yeah.
Oh, you were super stiff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, last week it was just like it was just those bumps.
Soupy.
It made the Supercross suspension feel wild. So
yes. So you're softening her up, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah.
All right. 70 miles an hour ish.
Let's see.
That's like a fire road. You've done it. Yeah. Well, there we go. I'm gonna give you some intel. Thanks, AB.
10 years though.
Yeah, it's been a while. Did you ever race snowshoe?
10 years ago. Yeah.
You ever race snowshoe?
Yeah. I raced it once on a 252 stroke, but
that was just straight roads, right?
More or less half the track, but yeah. It also had the freaking rock climb section.
Oh yeah. You'll be back. You'll be back. You'll be back. Interesting what I'm getting here, patrolling the pits. So I talked to Jensen Hedler, 250 team manager for Star Racing, and I said, did anything surprise you? And they said no. And I'm like, are you running more of a motocross setup this weekend? And he said, no, not more of, meaning they're just running a motocross setup, straight up. And they seem pretty happy. I went over to Pro Circuit, talked to Ryder D's mechanic, and they said they're starting Supercross and softening it up. And that's what we just learned there from Aaron Plessinger. It appears they went stiff and they're trying to soften it. But then, as I mentioned, I talked to the track crew, and that's going to change too, because I think my sound's better when I'm behind the camera, so I'll go this way. That's going to change too, because I believe they're saving the real watering, disking, ripping, and getting it real deep for tomorrow. Just in case if it rains tonight, that would be a disaster. So there's no reason to go that far now. So if it doesn't rain tonight, which I don't believe it's supposed to, then they can rip it real deep. Track crew also told me that they had some sections and obstacles they couldn't build because it was so wet when they got here. They said it was almost 12 inches deep, but just super wet when they got here, so they couldn't build all the stuff they wanted due to rain. But don't worry, if you like your obstacles in the form of just rough, gnarly ground, hey guys, yeah, you're gonna get it, because instead of some big jumps in those midfield sections, you're just gonna have really deep dirt and a lot of water tomorrow. And it'll just be, as I heard in a conference call this week, just rough outdoor ground. There'll be a lot of that. So really interesting. Some teams going Supercross at the beginning of the day and softening. Some teams is coming in on a straight motocross setup. They don't have that mega steep rhythm lane, so they don't need to be as stiff as last week. We'll see how it turns out. That's it for the Weege Show. We're gonna head to the compound. Can I get a ride? Let's do it. All right, we're gonna sign off. Thanks to Honda for backing the show. We'll see you tomorrow.